This is like a paranoid conspiracy theorist dream show.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is like,
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
all true. We're all being run by lizard men from outer space. Like, oh my God. Hail, Internet. It's Paul. It's Matt. The Dork Lords. We are here today talking about Secret Invasion, Season 1, Episode 2, Promises. We open with a flashback. We see some scenes from the Captain Marvel film, and then we jump to 1997. Fury is recruiting Skrulls to be in his spy network. He meets a young Gravik, whose parents were killed by the Kree. I think it's pretty strongly implied that Gravik ends up working for Fury.
Yeah, sorry, Tyler.
That's right, Tyler's theory. Although I have a way that our friend Tyler could still be kind of right. How about that? I'll throw that out later.
All right.
But yes, you're right. You're completely wrong, Tyler, and I can't believe it. Oh, it's terrible. Tyler guessed that perhaps Gravik was Fury's son. Okay. Talos vouches for Fury to the Skrulls, and Fury promises them a new home planet. Thus, the title of the episode. He finishes with, "You keep your word, I'll keep mine." Like, oh, that's going to come back to haunt him.
Yep.
We end somewhere in England. Fury's driving on the wrong side of the road, so he's there. He's in England. He arrives at a nice, well-furnished house, seemingly out in the country somewhere. He enters, and we meet his wife. Another references to the Promises title, I assume, who is also a Skrull. Now, I'm not sure if he knows she's a Skrull. They film it in such a way that it's not 100% sure. My instinct says that he does. But they slow dance in the kitchen, roll credits. Paul,
Yes.
what'd you think of episode 2?
6.5 out of 10, I'd say.
Okay. I'd give it a little higher score than that, but okay. I hear you.
Yeah. Partially because maybe it's just this, the torture that was happening, and it's fun to see Olivia doing a scene where she's like, basically, yeah, her whole thing is she's really enjoying herself. But why didn't go down and go after her? They could have done something to make it clear that they couldn't have gone after her, but I see nothing stopping them from going after, Sonya Fallsworth and getting her.
I suppose they just wanted to get out of there, but you're right. Like, a chance to take out the top MI6 operative who's stuck in a chute. Maybe you would go ahead and do that.
Yeah, and I'm not clear exactly why they need to kill that guy.
Right. That was something I was thinking is, I think both of those scenes that you've just brought up, I think are setting up future scenes. I think that's just, so for instance, Sonya, the way she's like gleefully torturing this Skrull bomber guy.
Right.
I think that is setting up a future scene in which she's going to be interrogating one of the good guys. So maybe it's Talos, maybe it's Fury, maybe it's, as it turns out, Gaia, but somebody that we care about is about to be tortured by him. We're like, oh God, we know what she does when she tortures people. I mean, I think that's what that's setting up. And then I think the killing the Skrull in the woods, I think it's Gravik's warning to Gaia. I think Gaia is a double agent. I think she's working against the Skrulls, and she thinks she's doing it secretly. But I think Gravik knows about it, and I think there's going to come a moment when it's like, see what we do to traitors. And he's not even a traitor, though. It's just like, see what we do to people who let us down. You got caught. But I think that's what that's like. Oh, I see. This guy, kills people that he considers cross him in some way. And so that's where I think it's leaning at. But you're right. On its face, this guy got captured. He was tortured. His finger's off. He's got something has been injected into his blood. You can tell he's really struggling. And, did he lie about not giving out information? Okay. He's like, I told him lies. Please don't kill me. But at this point, you've got him back. I mean, and you kill him anyway. It's just it's a pretty harsh thing. The guy was tortured. He wasn't given a cookie. he was like, "You cut your finger off." I mean, whatever. Anyway, so it's like, wow, okay, it's pretty harsh on that guy.
And if there was just a little bit more discussion about that, I would
Okay.
have appreciated it. It's like if anybody said, "Why are we killing this guy?" Hey, we must be hard. Anybody that gives up information, we must show that they, what, why.
Yeah, you got him back.
Yeah.
That's the point. You know. What do you think about? Does Fury know that his wife is a Skrull?
I assumed that he did. You could say that you wonder why it would need to appear to be secret, But then you could also say that Clint Barton did the same thing.
Right. Okay. Yes. There's the Hawkeye hush hush family.
Yeah. Maybe that's the only way to be married is if you have hush hush whatever. And I assumed that. And actually too, something that I think I maybe discussed last time. I'm not sure, but I'm not exactly sure what was so bad about the blip for Fury that would make him run off to space.
Great point. Because you were making the case. This was kind of off air that like the real grief and tragedy and loss were the people that stayed behind, not the people that got blipped necessarily. Yeah,
right.
I got you. He's acting like someone who stayed the 5 years.
Yeah. So what I imagined is like, okay, he was blipped and then lost 5 years with his wife, and he saw that everything is worse for the Skrull, and then thought, okay, I better book it out to space to find a new planet. Now, if I had to put money on it, I'd say that's not what's going on, but that would make sense to me. That would make sense to me. It's
I better get started. I better get this planet. Yeah.
We still don't know why he's out in space. So, I think it's more likely that it's something else that is, it's part of some other story.
Yeah, they're worried about an interstellar threat, probably. Or something,
or whatever. But, that would make sense. It was like, I better find some place for these Skrull, especially since I've got a wife who's, I want her to be safe. And the best way for her to be safe is all these Skrulls, or most of off the planet. Maybe she stays here with me, or I have a place that I retire off on Skrull planet.
I get the idea that keeping her existence secret is reasonable considering his position. But the relationship, I mean, how long are they even together? Have they been together for the last 20 years? Like he faked his death.
Yeah.
He went off the grid, and I don't think that was to her house. He was blipped for 5 years. Now she might have been blipped too, but whatever. He was out of the game for 5 years. Then he goes into space, and he's been there for years by himself.
Yes.
Like, has she been chopping cucumbers for 10 years, just waiting for? Oh, he's finally back. Boy, that dinner's spoiled. I don't know. Anyway, so it's like that's a big ask for the wife. Let's put it that way. Like, you just wait around, and then when I've got some time free, I might just stop by. You're like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So that the relationship, there's some questions about that, but it's possible that he thinks she's human and she's a spy, which would also be why she's so willing to go to all those lengths to I'll take care of the house.
That'd be a strange. I don't know what they would get out of that dramatically.
I agree that it would be kind of like, okay, he's been duped. I think it's more impactful story wise if he fell in love with a Skrull, that's he obviously, we see in '97 he's working very closely with the Skrulls in creating the spy network and creating trust between them. You can imagine somebody he met through that process. Perhaps they formed a relationship.
It certainly would be nice if she wasn't a helpless Skrull.
Agreed. It's also, it would be weird if she was actually spying, that she would be cutting cucumbers as a Skrull. I get it. By the time he turns the corner, she's in human form. But just to be doing that at all, like, I'll just stand out in the open with in my dress and my necklace as a Skrull. Like, it would be like a chance you probably wouldn't want to take if that was like if your life depended on it. Anyway. We'll see. We'll see how that works. But my instinct tells me he knows she's a Skrull. Now, do they? Tyler mentioned that he thought maybe Gravik was a child. His child. Gravik is not his child. But do they have a child?
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be surprising. I shouldn't say surprising. It'd be. I mean, for dramatic purposes, I could see keeping that information. No, Daddy, you're home until we see later that he's got a kid.
Yeah.
But I could see that okay, the child wasn't around at the time.
The other way that Tyler could be kind of right is if perhaps so when we meet Kid Gravik, his parents were killed by the Kree. He had gotten a spaceship and escaped. Okay, came to Earth. Maybe as he joins Fury's program, Fury adopts him. Maybe he's like, you know what? You don't have a family. Welcome to my family. I'm taking you in. So that's how Gravik could theoretically be like a child of Fury's, perhaps if he's an adopted kid. Anyway, just
okay, sure. He certainly appears fairly young when Nick Fury first meets him. So
yeah,
he could become a mentor to that. Although when they were in the same place, you would think that he would be making more of an effort to communicate with him then. That's
true. Kind of like the Han Solo, Ben Solo moment or something.
Yeah.
Ben! Yeah, that's a good point. But we do see that Gravik has a very personal axe to grind with Nick Fury. He mentions like, oh, I saw him and he was just an old fool and these vapors. And I could have killed him, but I didn't because I didn't want to give him what he wanted. So I'm going to make him suffer. And like, okay, this guy, he's been burned on that promise, obviously, and takes it very, very personally. In fact, he brings up Nick Fury to the Skrull Council. Like, this is the reason we need to go to war. Nick Fury screwed us over. Like, okay, all right, that's the one guy. All right,
yeah,
you're right.
The way they rolled over for him was, it's like, it's that easy to take over their group.
Yeah, right. Well, but the other interesting thing about that group is they've obviously worked their way into the upper echelons of power.
Yeah. I don't know what percentage of world leaders are Skrulls.
Yeah. I feel like this is like a paranoid conspiracy theorist dream show. It's all true. We're all being run by lizard men from outer space. Like, oh my God, it's right. It's like a Philip K. Dick novel. It's like that level of conspiracy kind of thing. Like, oh, okay. But they just cede all power to Gravik.
What do you think is the end game for the show? Are they finding a new Skrull planet, or do they get exposed as a community of refugees that either is accepted or not in whatever nations that they're in, spread out over the world, or do they try to find a homeland on Earth, or do they succeed in finding a planet for them?
For one thing, why is it so difficult to find a planet for them?
Yeah, I know.
Guys,
I know,
guys. I know from us, like you and me trying to find a planet for somebody. Okay, we wouldn't be able to do it. They're out in space all the time. They've got people that the Guardians of the Galaxy, for instance, go out in space. There are ways you could contact, be like, oh yeah, there's this planet, and boy, they would love to have whatever. I mean, it feels like it wouldn't take years. Anyway, it's taking years.
It's like if you were to say that Earth has the interstellar capabilities, just because the Guardians of the Galaxy do, I don't know. It's like that sword spaceship. We don't know if it's intergalactic. If it is, okay, fine. Then what's their excuse? But I don't know if we know.
Or this Saber program,
it can travel between planetary systems. Maybe it can. Probably it can.
Or at least identify them.
So long. It just makes no sense to take that long. I just,
But okay, let's assume for a second. Okay, fine. It is legitimately taking them that long to do it, and for whatever reason.
Sure.
I feel like the end game here is going to be, obviously, there's going to be conflict first.
Sure.
And Gravik's going to have to be dealt with in some way, whether he's killed or not. It seems likely that he's too far gone to be brought back. But I feel like there will be a peaceful solution among the Skrulls that are already here, because there's so many of them here. I mean, they're already here, and they've made lives. They probably have kids.
Yes.
There's more than they had 1 million. That's a big reveal.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
tell us
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I brought 1 million. I invited 1 million here. Like, what? Oh God. And they've been having kids. So anyway, there's more than 1 million, and they have incredibly long lifespans.
Yep.
They're their population's growing.
Yeah.
So I think there'll be a faction here, but I think they will find a planet and give them the option of going to a new homeworld as well. I think there's going to be like a positive resolution on both of those ends, if I had to guess.
I mean, I wonder if it's not more likely that they'll have to come to some sort of agreement on the planet. Either because, they want to have another season of this, or they want to keep that possibility alive on the planet. But
when you say agreement, you mean like they'll offer the planet and they're like, we're not taking that planet? Or what do you say?
Oh, yeah, if they, of how to share the Earth.
The Earth specifically. Okay, I thought you were like, you could take this dingy planet that's out in the... They call it the swamp planet. It's awesome, though. It's really good. It's maybe we'll stay here.
It's like Nick Fury would be a Century 21 agent, and
right.
Make the foreclose on them.
There's this planet. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Hoth. Think you're really gonna like it. There's no one there now, so it's really great.
Here you go, Botany Bay. It's really a great planet.
Right. I don't see anything happening bad to that planet ever.
Ceti Alpha 5. You'll love it.
You'll love it there. Yeah, but I feel like the solution will be ultimately a peaceful one after a period of war. It's not going to be like, here's how we solve the problem: kill every Skrull. Like, okay.
No. I just wonder if it's going to be some sort of stalemate, or some sort of like they stop Gravik, but they still have the problem on Earth. So we'll see. It might be too big a thing to integrate into everything. Is that you now have a population of Skrulls on the planet? I just feel like, they got 6 episodes to do it in. Maybe they are able to get rid of all the Skrulls on the planet. I think dramatically, it's just kind of interesting to me. If, like right now, nobody knows they're there. What if they did? That's all.
Right. And they're bringing up the idea, when Fury and Rhodey are having their argument. There's talk about discrimination.
Yes.
We have the chat between Talos and Fury when Fury describes his childhood of having to ride in the segregated car of the train. Right. Yeah. So there's talk of segregated societies and discriminatory societies that ultimately attempted to bring people together. And so I feel like that's the idea: is bring the Skrulls into our world.
It's possible, though, they maybe want to make some larger commentary on how society could be more inclusive and accepting, and it's not.
Good point. So one of the things that during the torture scene, the Skrull mentions that this married couple named Dalton, I think we see them in the thing, are making a machine that can make Skrulls stronger.
Yes.
Of course, you mentioned last week the Super Skrull character from the comics. Seems to be where this is going. The scientists mention going on like scavenging missions. In this case, the guy came back empty-handed. And then we see these computer files of Groot, Cull Obsidian, the Frost Beast, and the Extremis Project. Groot fought in Wakanda. You can imagine a scavenging thing went, maybe found some stray branches from him or something to get his DNA. The trailers show Gravik using like Grootish powers.
Right.
Suggesting that Gravik's going to use the machine.
Yeah.
Maybe become our first Super Skrull. Cull Obsidian's arm was chopped off in Central Park in Infinity War. The Frost Beast was racing through the city in Thor: Dark World, and of course the Extremis Project was introduced in Iron Man 3. So, there's a sample of She-Hulk's blood. They took that in her show.
Yeah.
There's DNA of super powered individuals going around.
Yeah, you're right.
So apparently they're trying to introduce those to make the Skrulls even more powerful, which kind of fits in line with your Super Skrull comment.
Sure.
Fury interrogates Talos, with the "Tell me something I don't know" game, which I noticed it was like game, but Talos didn't get to go. It's like, you just tell me everything you do, and I don't.
You were just waiting to say, "I've got a wife who's a Skrull," but he
You're
never
right.
asked him. He never
asked. He just said like, "Oh, I brought 1 million people here," and then Fury kicked him off the train.
Yeah,
which seemed a little short-sighted since, it seemed like Talos was really the only person keeping his car safe.
Yeah. Oh, we're safe now. We're on a train. It's moving.
Yeah.
So
it's fine. It's fine. If I have to jump, what the hell? I think Gravik knows that Gaia is a double agent. We see even more there was a mightily strong implication that she turned in their safe house. For instance. So, she's like, I'm going to go away from the car for a second, new recruit guy.
Yeah.
Then you see her talking in Russian, and then a couple of minutes later, I wonder how they found our safe house. Like, okay. All right. So it does seem like she's working against them, and I do feel like Gravik knows it, and it's trying to use her connection to her dad.
Let's say that was something that was confusing in the first episode, where she's like, okay, I'll put this thing on the pack so you could see where they're going. And then, it turns out that there was like a decoy or whatever. And then it's like, okay, now this thing's going to happen. And she didn't look to me like she was, what's happening? It's just like everything's going as planned.
You're right. There wasn't a lot of what going on there. It's true. So it is, they're kind of playing that a little deliberately obtuse, but we also see in terms of Gravik's potential strategy, he, for instance, when the council votes and there's the one dissenting vote, and he's been really threatening the whole time, but he's like, you can walk out of here.
I felt it was far more logical for him to kill that woman than that guy who had his finger chopped off.
But I think the reason he doesn't kill her is he knows she's going to go and talk to Talos. And that's the first thing she does is like, Talos, you won't believe what's happened. And then Talos says, set up a meet. Well, that's going to bring, I assume, next episode, Talos is coming to Gravik. So I feel like he's getting what he wants out of it, which is kind of what I think is happening with Gaia as well. But here's a theory. I think what's going to happen is that new recruit guy, because Gaia brought him in, right? Gaia met him at the gate and then introduced him. I think he's going to get blamed as the mole, and then she's just going to have to let him die or whatever. Be like, oh well, it's not me. Ha 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 ha. You're right. It is that guy. I don't know. Anyway, that's where I see that going. That she's going to have like a little moral crisis of, oh, this guy's taking the fall for me. How do I resolve that issue if I can?
Okay.
So.
Certainly not the only show where we ever had torture. But I wish someone would really do the work and make it easier for shows to have people get information without torture. Which, maybe touchy-feely or whatever, but, it's sort of like, there's so many ways I think the studies that say that torture doesn't work are reasonable, and
it's a good point. Like, if they're making her being Sonya, out to be like one of the good guys, but she uses torture because that's what you got to do, then that's pretty terrible. I think they're making her out to be like an antagonistic force, perhaps. That she's not exactly like, I hate Nick Fury or anything like that, but she's got her own agenda, and it doesn't really align necessarily. Like, for instance, if she knew there were 1 million Skrulls around and Nick Fury knew about it, like she'd probably be very upset. So I feel like it might be setting her up as not a bad guy, but an antagonist, maybe. And in that way, maybe like showing her being like ruthless is like, see, she can be terrible and you don't want to cross her. Maybe that's kind of where the angle they're going. But you're right, if they're like, hey, it's what the good guys do. We just, cut people's hands off and make them talk. Make their blood boil. Like, okay. Her place in this story in some ways determines whether or not I feel like that the use of that torture scene is maybe appropriate or not. I don't know.
That's why I wish someone would actually do the work and say, it's like, okay, this is how situations can be handled responsibly, dramatically, without torture. But it hasn't happened yet, so it's not like Secret Invasion is worse than any other show. It's just that's what I was thinking of when I watched it.
Yeah, I got you.
But yeah, no, in Andor they had some torture, and yes, it was the evil people, but it worked. It's like it's like, come on, hey, we got to get some information. It looks like we have to torture.
The torture plot line that just made me go, come, please stop, please stop, was in Game of Thrones.
Oh.
It was like that episode after episode. I'm forgetting the guy's name. The character was captured and then tortured over a season, basically.
Yes, yeah.
And it was just so gratuitous.
Yeah.
And it was like, just stop, please. I don't need to see this scene.
Yeah,
I get it. He's being tortured.
It was
I get
gratuitous.
it.
That's true. Thankfully, though,
and it was the bad guy.
They weren't trying to. It was the bad guy, but also though he was doing it to torture him.
He wasn't getting information. But I'm just saying.
Affect his character and make him. Which actually torture does work for that. I think.
You're saying, well, actually, in that case, it actually works.
If you actually want to terrorize somebody to the point where they're gonna obey you and they're afraid of you, torture works.
Rhodey has this very interesting talk with Fury, and in the process, well, first Fury tells him about the Skrulls, and we learn that we know the government knows about the Skrulls.
Yes,
and so that's kind of important information. Then Rhodey fires. He said, "Look, I volunteered. You were going to get let go. I volunteered for the job. I got the idea it was like partially because I know you, and I'd rather it come from me than it come from some anonymous person." But it brings up the possibility that the reason Rhodey's being such a jerk is that he's a Skrull.
Yeah.
I personally hope that is not true. I feel like the show can run the risk of making scenes become meaningless because every conflict can just get dismissed as, it's probably a Skrull. Like, it's much more impactful if Rhodey, who is actually Rhodey, actually is disappointed in Nick Fury. Like, that's pretty, wow, right. That's a big deal. If it's to say, like, well, the only reason he did is because he's a Skrull, he's trying to get rid of the competition. Okay.
Yeah.
You can maybe do that once or twice, but if you start if that becomes the going, like everybody who's a jerk is a Skrull.
And unfortunately, I think they're probably going to be in the course of the next 4 episodes, a situation where the audience is deliberately made to wonder, I wonder if Rhodey's a Skrull.
Yeah.
And I feel like, if we start to feel that way, and then it turns out that he's not a Skrull, then I don't know what I hope they don't make us think that he's a Skrull if he's not in fact a Skrull.
You'd be upset at the misdirect, in other words, like the intentional misdirect.
Yeah.
I got you.
I mean, I guess it's then it would be, I think, trying to be too clever. Like, okay, I mean, because I already feel like it's kind of why is he being fired? It's like he was trying to stop it. Okay, he didn't succeed, but typically, they're a lot more forgiving of failure.
That's true. They've had a lot of failures.
And it's funny, like, you left the planet or whatever. Okay, do they know? It really begs the question, or at least makes you wonder, why did he leave? We didn't, if it's not him trying to find another Skrull planet, then like, what the heck? Why
he's
he's
running this Operation Saber.
Yeah,
you would think the government knows what he's doing.
Make sure that you cross the T and dot the I here. He's not an engineer or anything. Why does he need to be up in space?
I think the implication is that he went there to get away. I don't know, to get away from the downside or the after effects of the blip. Like it was just too much for him to take or something.
Yeah. Right. And that's why, when saying I don't think he suffered that much in the blip. So it was just like, now you're back,
And he left his wife, which, by the way, I reminded, there's a line that I was wondering about from episode 1 that now maybe makes a little more sense. It's when Fury is playing chess with Maria Hill. And she's like, you're finally back. Why'd you come back? Or something like that. And he says, well, I owed it to Talos. And she says, you sure you're not talking about someone else?
Oh.
And then it's just left off, and I was like, I wonder whether someone else is.
Right.
So I'm thinking maybe it's the wife.
Maria Hill
you know?
knows.
Yeah, so Maria Hill knows he's married. I think.
Okay.
Again,
Yeah,
you can draw the conclusion there.
I think it's a decent conclusion, yeah.
One really sinister possibility is that he married a human, he was blipped, and then he went off into space, and in the interim, the Skrulls took the human,
that's
replaced the human, and so he thinks it's his wife, but she's been replaced, and because he hasn't been around, he doesn't realize it. That could be a thing too.
Interesting.
Where the wife's being kept somewhere or dead.
Okay.
So there's that.
Yeah.
Anyway, there were some interesting plot developments to arrive.
Definitely.
I think we talked about this with some other shows that are really plot heavy, where we're like, a lot of what we're saying and whether or not we're favorable about it depends on the payoff.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
At the end of this, we look back, we'll go, "Oh, that was really good," or "Oh, wow, that didn't work at all."
Right. I wanted it to be something, and it turns out it wasn't.
Right. So we'll be back talking about episode 3. Thank you very much, as always, Paul.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it, and we'll talk to everybody next time. Bye.
Bye.